Final week of the season. Got all kinds of storylines here that we're going to talk about. Chargers close out against the Raiders. Chargers should win this thing. The Raiders have won 2 in a row. Think about the crap season the Raiders have had, right in line to get the first or second pick in the draft. And what do? Behind Aiden O'Connell, who many didn't think could play, they win back-to-back games. So instead of drafting 1 or 2, the Raiders are now likely to draft number 10, which means they're not going to get a shot at the top 2 quarterbacks on the board. Even the Raiders can't get it right when they screw it up. I will say this. Payback. Chargers need to go into this game with attitude. Yeah, they want to win. They want to finish with an impressive 11-6 record. Payback. Let's not forget what Antonio Pierce did a year ago at the end of the season, the 63-21 win for the Raiders in Vegas against the Bolts. Let us not forget him leaving his starters in the game till there was a minute 30 to go in a 63-21, just running the damn score up. Payback. Harbaugh has obviously changed the culture of Charger football. Justin Herbert's got 21 touchdowns and 3 picks this season. That's mystical. He didn't even get named to the Pro Bowl because there's so many other great quarterbacks in the league. All right, here's a piece of the scoreboard. And I'm not being negative for the sake of being negative. Although I will tell you that I'm pissed off that the Chargers are no longer in San Diego and pissed off at the lack of loyalty Team Spano showed towards the people that supported this franchise for 55 years. Scoreboard, they're 10-6. The teams they beat, John, have a combined record of 47-96. Wow, 47-96. They beat up every bad team on the board. The teams they lost to, combined record of 52-28. When they played the big boys, they got punched in the mouth.
That's right.
So is it unfair of me to question them as they go for their 11th win of the season? Who the hell have you beaten? Because when we go to postseason a week from now, wild card weekend, you're not playing Carolina. You're not playing some of the other riffraff in the league. And again, we know that the teams you lost to were 52-28. You haven't beaten anybody of significance. So we got the Chargers versus the Raiders. Bengals, Pittsburgh. He's not going to get MVP votes. He probably should get MVP votes. But I'll tell you what, he has now made comments as if I am going to run this franchise. Remember Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati quarterback. He's thrown for over 4,600 yards. He's got 42 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, playing behind a leaky offensive line without much of a running game. Joe Burrow's been spectacular. Joe Burrow stood up this week, just before the New Year's Eve break for the team, and was asked about the roster and asked about the season and asked about the impending free agency of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, the top 2 wide receivers. And Joe Burrow makes the comment, you don't want to make your living with a reputation of letting great players go every year. Ouch. That shot was directly at Mike Brown, the longtime owner of the Cincinnati Bengals, who let player after player after player leave. That's free agency. He's raking in tons of money as the owner of the Bengals in that marketplace. The Bengals own that market. You got this great quarterback. Both those wide receivers are free agents. Joe Burrow goes public. He just puts an enormous amount of pressure on Mike Brown. Do this right. Re-sign these guys. That's interesting. Pittsburgh, I wouldn't want to be around Mike Tomlin right now. He's not real happy. They've lost 3 in a row. Everything's kind of caught up to them. The fact they've lived off a pedestrian offense, and now they got people dinged on defense. And he said the stench of losing is terrible in our locker room right now. I just don't know how Pittsburgh's going to beat Cincinnati, because Cincinnati is obviously playing to get in as a wild card team. And I'll tell you what, I don't think I'd want to play Cincinnati right now because Burrow's so red hot, and so are those receivers and the tight ends. Third game, Kansas City, Denver. Chiefs are 15-1. They are sitting Patrick Mahomes, and they're sitting Isaiah Pacheco. Don't want to get them hurt for the playoffs. The Broncos got Bo Nix. The Broncos have a home game against Kansas City. Broncos are playing to try to finally drive themselves in to a wild card spot. And it really begs the question, we've got this multiple times around the league, Don't you sign up for a 17-game schedule? Shouldn't you play all your guys for 17 games? Or do you have a right, since you clinched everything, to sit these guys and don't get them hurt in a meaningless end-of-season game? The game in the league is going to be Minnesota-Detroit. Vikes are 14-2. Lions are 14-2. How cool is this? Two quarterbacks nobody wanted have led their teams to these 14-2 ledgers. Sam Darnold has thrown for 4,153 yards and 35 touchdowns for the Vikes. And Jared Goff, who was just meandering around a substandard career with the Rams, traded to Detroit. He's thrown for 4,400 yards and 36 touchdowns. Minnesota, Detroit, first place, black and blue division. This is going to be fun. A couple other notes. Eagles. They're obviously 13-3. Eagles have clinched. Eagles are sitting Saquon Barkley. You only get one time in your life to walk down the street. Talking about the street where you set an all-time record in the NFL that'll be in the annals of the record book forever and ever. And they're not letting Saquon Barkley play on the final meaningless game of the season. He's only 101 yards shy of breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time rushing record. He is going to sit. Rams are sitting Matthew Stafford. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get a chance to start a game. Rams have already won the NFC West. Garoppolo will take the ball against the Seattle Seahawks. It also looks as if the Rams are sitting both the receivers, Kupp and Puka Nacua, and are sitting Kyren Williams. So, John, you want to talk about the Chargers and their record against who's good and who's not so good? You want to talk about Joe Burrow? You want to talk about sitting your stars versus playing your stars? Didn't you sign up for a 17-game schedule? The floor is yours.
The floor is mine. All right. So it's funny how there's such a double standard about this thing where if a player decides to, sit out, they might call him selfish. You're not you're not out there on the field. You should be out there every day because you're getting paid.
It's a coaching decision.
Well, it's a coaching decision, sure. But then if he put himself out in the game, Saquon Barkley, to go for the record, then they call him selfish then too. So he can't win either way. But this has just got to be a tough week for, bettors and fantasy players. You don't know who you're playing. But it's weird how some of these games mean nothing. Other games mean everything, especially that Lions-Vikings game. And, oh, by the way, Raider fan is never going to forget that 63-21 game. They're going to hold that over Charger fan for as long as we're all alive.
So what do you think about the disparity of Charger record? 47-96 against the garbage in the league. That's who they beat. And 52-28, that's who they lost to, the good teams in the league. Where do you think the Chargers really are?
Well, you've been talking about this all season, is wait till we had that run of those 5 great quarterbacks.
And look what happened.
Yeah. Then they had to play like Lamar Jackson and the whole group of them, Joe Burrow, et cetera. And they didn't do well. So I think, you are what reality says you are. And in this case, I worry the Chargers may get into the playoffs, but they may lose their first game.
It's going to be on the road. They're not going to get a home game. What do you think about Minnesota, Detroit?
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh,
yeah, where is it going to be, in Minnesota or Detroit?
Detroit.
Oh, Detroit. I by the way, I love the Minnesota arena when that Viking horn blows and everything. That's terrific. But good on Detroit. They deserve an opportunity to have a home game and to clinch number 1 seed. Just both teams I just love. And Kevin O'Connell, local San Diego guy, man, good for him. He's having a great run.
NFC North equals black and blue division. Hell of a lot of good football played by most everybody in the NFC North, not named the Chicago Bears.
The NFC North division.
Hey, we get to halftime. You got a comment about all things NFL. Feel free to jump on board. That Fans Forum chat box is open. Looking for first-timers, Rookie of the Year candidates to join us in Fans Forum. We get to halftime in just a minute. But